And we're good. Go ahead.
All right. Well, as far as the mission trips, first off, you may be wondering, like, well, why go on a mission trip? Why, spend money, buy a ticket, go off to some foreign country? I mean, other than the fact that it's absolutely exciting and fun, and you could go to Asia or South America, and I don't know how much more excuse you need than that. But in case you need more reasons than just that for heading to another country, um, both trips are an amazing opportunity to get to share the gospel with kids, many of whom wouldn't hear the gospel any other way. Especially working in Asia, we're working in areas where, I mean, you share about Jesus with these kids, and they look at you and they say, "Who's Jesus? I've never even heard of him before." Or they'll ask, "What's the Bible? What is this book that you keep talking about?" And that, for me, when I first started working there, was a totally new experience. I'd never talked to kids who had completely no idea what we were talking about. So it's a way to fulfill, I mean...
Uh-oh. She left. Well?
I don't think that was supposed to happen.
You're not going to pick up there mid-sentence, Aubrey?
Oh, my word. Hi, Steven, by the way. Welcome.
Hey.
Hi, Stephen.
I guess this was your call, wasn't it?
I don't know. I don't know what happened after.
Well, welcome. Anyways.
I got off early, so I actually...
Oh, sweet. That's awesome. Well, we will wait for her to get back on. Is anyone planning on going on a missions trip at this point?
Not really.
Okay, hey guys, sorry about that.
Oh, there we go.
Hey.
So Google Hangout decided to simultaneously crash on my computer and my cell phone at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, lovely.
Like, great. I love technology. So, switch to the cell phone here. Okay, so, like, well, think about the Great Commission for a minute. I'll be back. It's a great thing to think about for a while. So, yeah, it is a way to fulfill the Great Commission, and you can share the gospel literally with hundreds of kids on one of these trips. It's also a way as a student to get to explore some new ways of investing in people and interacting with people that maybe you've been considering, maybe you haven't, but it will give you a taste of that, which can really play into your life purpose. I've had a lot of people go on mission trips because they're trying to figure out, do I belong on the mission field, or do I belong with kids, or where am I meant to, what am I supposed to be doing? And it's a really good way to explore your life purpose. It's also an incredible way to learn to communicate and connect with other cultures. Because in our world today, even if you decide you're going to work in the U.S. for your entire life, and this is going to be where you belong, which is fine, you are going to be interacting with people from other cultures. I mean, I grew up in Southern California. You can't not encounter another culture. It's just, walk down the street. I had friends who'd be like, why do you go to other countries to learn to speak Spanish? Like, just walk outside. I was like, well, the problem is you guys here speak English too. I need to go someplace where they don't speak any English. But it was true. Within, the space of a half-hour drive, you could go through multiple cultures. So learning to connect with another culture is a vital skill right now. And there's nothing like going to a foreign country and being the foreigner to actually learn what is it like to communicate with someone in another language, and to, in a sense, kind of stumble over things in a foreign culture and figure things out, and realize what is it like to be the person who doesn't know what's going on. And, having to show cultural sensitivity. There's in Asia, they have so many funny quirks in Asia. Okay, it is rude to point your feet at somebody. Like, especially to point your feet at a temple. Like, that is just, like, really, really, really rude. And so anytime you're sitting on the floor, you're always trying to figure out what to do with your feet. And you find yourself doing all these awkward things, like tucking them underneath you and sitting cross-legged. Like, I'm trying to figure out where do you put your feet? And you realize, like, this is what it can feel like to someone from another country, is they just constantly feel like, what am I supposed to do? I'm missing something. Wait, why did everybody just get upset with me? What did I just do wrong? Unfortunately, for the most part in Myanmar, they're very gracious with us, and they're like, yeah, you really shouldn't have done that. It's okay. We understand. You're not from here, but don't do that again. So, yeah, I learned things like, if you're not the oldest person in the room and anybody's sitting on the floor, join them on the floor. That's what to do. So it will give you cultural communication skills. It'll give you a chance to share the gospel. It'll give you a chance to learn more about yourself. It will also give you an incredible chance to build friendships, both with the people that you're serving in the country where you're going. I mean, some of my really good friends are from other countries and may not even speak English. It'll also give you an incredible chance to build friendships with other College Plus students. I mean, there's nothing like traveling together for a couple of weeks in some foreign country and basically being family together to build friendships. And the last College Plus team, we had an awesome time and really got some awesome friendships out of that, right, Krista?
Oh yeah, totally. Melly and I were kind of joking because we had never met before then. We're like, most people spend months, maybe years, like slowly building a friendship and having conversations here and there, but we just get it all on the flight there and back, and then we drove to Texas together. So, like, we just do it all in one time.
It's true when you think about it. If you're trying to build a friendship with someone at church or whatever, and you only see each other once or twice a week, it takes a long time to build a deep friendship. You get more interaction with somebody on a mission trip in about 3 days than you get in probably, 3 months, 6 months of going to church together.
Yeah.
You also will learn a lot about yourself, and you will be pushed to develop your relationship with God in whole new ways. I really thought I had a good, strong relationship with God. I thought I knew God, and I trusted Him, and then I went on my first mission trip. And 36 hours before we were supposed to leave on the trip, the tickets had gotten lost for the trip. They were paper tickets. This is a while ago. And they didn't show up. They'd been FedExed, and they didn't show up. And this is over $20,000 worth of airline tickets. And so I'm praying. I don't even know if we're leaving the country, because if we don't get those tickets, we're not leaving. The tickets showed up. We got them less than 8 hours before we were supposed to leave. And then we got there, and I had all of the team info on my computer, and my computer crashed 3 days into the trip. And then, let's see, the girls lost all the keys to the hotel. And when you're locked out, you're not just like, I'll just go to the front door or the front desk and get another key. No, the hotel staff leaves at 5 o'clock, and they don't come back until the next morning. So if you're locked out, you're, sleeping in the hallway or something. And they wasn't just one, they'd lost all the keys to all the girls' rooms. And I remember wandering the streets of Romania in the middle of winter, praying and just being like, God, are you taking care of me or not? Like, I'm looking for these keys. I think they dropped them on the street out here, somewhere in the ice and the snow and the dark. And I don't think you really care about me. And I was having a bad attitude. And I was having an argument with God. And he was like, God just stopped me and was like, you need to trust me. I was like, fine, I'll trust you when I have the keys. He was like, yeah, that's not trust. That's, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And like, yeah, the keys aren't seen at the moment. And I was so mad at God. And he's just like, you need to trust me. And I was like, not until you give me those keys, I'm not. He's like, yeah, you don't understand what trust is and you don't know me. And it brought me up short. And I had to make a decision right then whether or not I was going to trust God or not. And I decided I was like, okay, God, I don't get it. I'm going to trust you. Somehow you'll work this out. And 5 minutes later, I had the keys in my hands. Turned out they'd been stuck in this weird pocket of one of our bags the entire time. We couldn't find it. I'm like, I think God just did that to be like, you need to learn to trust me. And the next mission trip, I ended up stuck in a riot. And the mission trip after that, I got caught in a flood. It was like God just kept saying, do you trust me? Do you trust me? And I learned to trust God like I never had before. And then I came home from like multiple mission trips, and I remember I was all frustrated about something at home, and I was just stewing over it, and what am I going to do about this, and this is terrible. And it was like God just asked me, he's like, am I the same God that you travel with when you go to foreign countries? It's like, well, yeah, it's not like I, change who I worship when I leave the country here or something. He's like, so do I take care of you in foreign countries? Like, what about lost keys and floods and riots and stuff like that? I was like, yeah, you take care of me pretty well in foreign countries. He's like, and you think I don't take care of you in the U.S. and I'm not engaged in your problems here too? I was like, oh, yeah. So it'll not only change your relationship with God on the mission field, it'll change your relationship with God at home. And you will learn to trust him and rely on him. And you'll learn areas of weakness in your relationship with him like you oftentimes don't unless you're under pressure. And when you're under pressure, you find out God's real and he cares about you and he loves you and you can trust him. So those are just a few of the top reasons I can think of for going on a mission trip. Great Commission, learn to engage with other cultures, make awesome friendships, learn to know God and develop your relationship with him like no other way that I can think of. So that's just kind of a rundown of like why go on a trip. Let's see, Eddie, you're on here too. How are you doing?
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm sorry, 1 second. Ruth, could I borrow a power cord? I was not planning to do this on my phone, but since my computer decided to crash, my phone's being more reliable. So as far as the trips themselves, the Asia trip, we're going to be going to Myanmar, which there is a reason why we call it the South Asia trip online instead of the Myanmar trip. It is a country where we have to apply for visas ahead of time, and we don't want them to not approve our visas because we're going as missionaries. So it's not that that's necessarily a problem. Like, Christians are becoming more and more open. Sorry, I'm moving someplace with a cord. Are becoming more and more open about what they're doing in the country. They post pretty openly about it on Facebook, but I just want to make sure that we can get our visas approved. So that's why we say Southeast Asia instead of saying Myanmar. But that's where we're going. And Myanmar was a closed country until about 4 years ago now. As in, it was one of the most repressive military regimes in the entire world. You couldn't even get a tourist visa. You couldn't get a business visa. You could not get in, and they really couldn't get out. They told me like they didn't know the news of what was going on in their own country. And about 4 years ago, the military government was replaced with a civilian government, and they have been changing things dramatically. 4 years ago, you couldn't get a cell phone. 3 years ago, a cell phone chip cost over $1,000. The last time I was there, I got one for $5. So, things are just, they're becoming so much more open. And 5 years ago, we couldn't have gone as a mission team. Never would have worked. And now, I've been all over the country. In fact, I held a kids program right down the street from a military barracks, and nobody even, we'd wave to them as we'd go by every day, and they'd wave to us as they'd walk down the street. This never would have happened in this country 5 years ago. So it is a primarily Buddhist country. It's 94% Buddhist. And so this is, it's in that 1040 window that they talk about in missions all the time, where most of the unsaved people in the world live. And we will be working, I think the first week we're going to be at an orphanage where I've worked a number of times. It's an orphanage/boarding school. Some of the kids are orphans. Some of them, their parents just can't afford to give them good schooling. Some of them, there is no school in their part of the country. In Myanmar, their social welfare system is basically that the monastery will take any kids whose parents are too poor to raise them. And so the kids will grow up in the monastery, and they get food and clothing and an education there. But it's a totally Buddhist education, and there is some sexual abuse that goes on there as well. So the Christians, in answer to that, decided it shouldn't just be the Buddhists running all of the social welfare in the country, and they started opening up schools, particularly boarding schools. I've interacted with kids at these boarding schools who don't live at home because their parents threaten to kill them. And so it would be a monastery in the past that would have taken them in. Now it's the Christians that are taking them in. And it's really cool what they're doing. There's another girl, one of my favorite little girls there. She's an AIDS orphan in a country where AIDS is almost unheard of. Like, it's just not a problem really in Myanmar. So it's unusual. But both of her parents died because of AIDS. Because of that, none of the rest of her family would take her in. And so, but this school, they said, no, we'll take her. And she is the most adorable little 8-year-old you've ever seen in your life. So these kids they're very respectful. They're very quiet. In fact, at first, I was thinking the first time I worked there, I was like, these kids don't like us. They won't talk to us. In fact, we'd be telling them a story and they'd all be looking at the ground. And I'm like, wow, like I'm usually pretty good at connecting with kids anywhere in the world. And these kids, they just don't like us. And then we found out after we'd been there for a couple days that looking down is a sign of respect. And so they were trying to be really respectful, and we're all like, we're trying to get down on their level and look at them, and they were probably like, these are the weirdest teachers ever. We're trying to be respectful, they're being so weird. But they are such sweet kids, and they are growing and blossoming under the Christian teaching there. We get to provide basically a week off for the staff. So we're going to be there probably during their first week of quote-unquote summer break, which I know sounds weird that that's in March, but that's when it is for them. So it gives the staff there some time off. I mean, there's not a lot of staff, and there's about 100 kids there. So they could really use a break. And we have so much fun with those kids. On week 2, I haven't gotten a definite answer yet on where we're working, but we'll be doing a kids program and very likely a teen camp in conjunction with it. It may be in Yangon. We may actually go a few hours outside Yangon. Like I said, I've been all over the country, so probably won't take you as far as I go on some of the longer trips. I've been way up almost to the Chinese border on some of the other trips, but that's like a 48-hour bus ride, so I won't inflict that on you.
Oh, bummer.
It's a long bus trip. So, but yeah, it's become one of my favorite places in the whole world to go. That in Ecuador, so you guys get my top 2. The food there is actually really awesome. If you like Thai food, it's kind of a cross between Thai and Indian food. It's not like the super weird Chinese food where they like, I don't know, coat bugs in some sort of goo and tell you to eat them. It's really normal food for the most part. Except when they leave the eyes in the fish. And you eat the whole thing. But you can skip the fish if you want to. I will make fun of you if you do, but you'll forever forfeit all bragging rights. But yeah, the food's pretty good. Living conditions there are, depending on where we are, it's everything from a fairly nice hotel with air conditioning and hot water to a bed that's clean and a shower that's cold and no air conditioning. So it really varies, but it's worth it to me. So, okay, so any questions about Myanmar before I talk about Ecuador?
How do you transition the bigger time difference? Like, I know that's a pretty big issue of like trying to get there and take the necessary steps, but still like get into ministry.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a little bit brutal, but basically we jump into ministry the day after we get there because it kind of forces us onto the time schedule. It is a pretty intense time change. It's depending on where you are in the U.S., it's basically a complete reversal of day and night. But by the time you've traveled for that long and you finally get there, it doesn't matter what time it is, it's a good time to sleep. So we try to work it out so you get there in the evening, then you can sleep immediately, and we kind of force you to get up and get going the next morning right away. And normally within about 2 days, people are functioning pretty well on the time zone there. We try to give everybody a really light schedule the first day.
Okay.
Because by about 7 o'clock that night, it's so funny if we're trying to do team devotions, everybody's sitting there and literally people are just like, I mean, eyes are just closing and people cannot handle it. We're just like, well, it's short devotions, 15 minutes, and everybody's ready to fall asleep, so we're going to bed. But it doesn't take, for some reason, it doesn't take very long. I would encourage you, give yourself a really light schedule for 2 or 3 days when you come back. I think it's harder to come back than it is to go there. So, yeah, normally the first day we're good from about, like, you wake up super early in the morning, unfortunately, so you'll be like ready to go actually when it's time to leave the hotel at like 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever. But it's more like about 5 o'clock that night when we're getting dinner that everybody's about ready to fall asleep in their plate. You spend a couple days feeling like that, of just like ready to crash at 5 p.m. The next day it's more like 6, and the next day you're like, I'm okay, it's 8 o'clock, woohoo, yay me. You're like, I am the weirdest college student ever, I really want to go to bed, it's only 9 o'clock.
I've heard if you skip food on the plane and then eat breakfast at their breakfast time when you get there, it's supposed to help. If you tried that, does it work?
I do something kind of like that. Like, they'll start serving you meals on the plane based on your schedule to which you're traveling. They actually will serve your food that way. The other thing is, I actually will change my phone to the time zone to which I'm traveling as soon as I get on the plane, and I just start telling myself to think in that time zone.
Sounds like a good idea.
It kind of works. I don't know why, but I think it's way easier going than returning. I do fine usually going there. I mean, the first day you're tired, yes, but
It's probably the adrenaline, I would think.
It's new, it's
Very
different, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's an adventure. Don't want to sleep through an adventure. There's pagodas to explore. I don't want to sleep.
So y'all are going, right?
Yeah, who's going?
Y'all are going, right?
Let's see. Well, you're going, Eddie, and I'm going. And Russ Bennett is going. Mariah is signed up and going. I think that's what we've got so far. I know I've talked to other people who are really interested, but those are the people who have, like, signed on the dotted line that they're going.
I really want to go.
Yeah?
I'm hoping I can go.
Oh, you should come, Aubrey. It'd be so much fun.
Do it.
Yep. I really
Do
want
it.
to.
And you can get really
My
good prices
brother's
out of
going
LA.
on Ecuador. Oh yeah, that's true. Well, I'll be moved to Texas actually by then. So,
Okay.
but my brother's going to Ecuador, so
That's
I'm
right.
bummed I can't go on that one. But yeah. Did you know that, Eddie? You knew that, right?
I did. No, I was very excited. We talked about it on the call right after you signed
Great.
up.
Okay.
That was actually what clinched the deal for me. Like, okay, great, I'm signing back up right now. If I was a spot, got a student going. I have no excuse.
Are you going on both, Eddie?
That's the plan, Lord willing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm pumped. I'm very pumped.
You know what you might want to do, Aubrey? I did this 2 years ago when I was going to Myanmar, because my parents live in California. I flew out to California on frequent flyer miles, spent a couple nights with my parents, and then got a really good price on my ticket out of LAX.
Yep.
Last year, I think I got the tickets from LAX for like $800 something, which was phenomenal. Like, I'd never gotten them that cheap before.
Yeah.
So don't expect it to be that cheap, but it's a good price out of LA.
Yeah. Well, even if I just flew from Texas to LA, I think that's probably what I'd do anyways.
Yeah.
As it is. I know that airport pretty well.
I figure a good excuse to go visit my family in California for a day or two. Yeah.
I won't have any family here anymore though. That's the problem.
Oh, is your whole family moving?
Yeah, they all moved a few months ago up to Washington. So
Okay.
yeah.
You have friends in LA though.
I do.
Couch surf.
I definitely have people I can visit out here. So
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, any other questions about Myanmar? You guys familiar with working through a translator?
It's different.
You'll be pros by the end of 2 weeks in Myanmar. Because if you can learn Burmese, my hat is off to you. It is one of the most difficult languages in the world.
I'm just afraid I'm going to try speaking a combination of Amharic, English, and Spanish to them, which is going to really confuse them.
Oh, I thought I was pretty decent at picking up languages, but I realized what it is I'm pretty decent at picking up the Latin-based languages. and trying to get the Asian language. So I was trying really hard to dismiss the teams, you know, like we do them by color where we give the kids bandanas and they're different colors. And we're like, okay, blue team, like you guys can go play games, and green team, you guys go do a craft, and, you know, purple team, you guys are going to go have a story. And so I'm trying to do this in Burmese. And I don't know what it is, but there's something about the color green that I apparently say wrong every time. And so I get all the kids out the door, and the translators just look at me and they just laugh. And I'm like, what? And they're like, well, let's see. This time you dismissed yellow, blue, purple, orange, and the closet. Like, dude, not again. They're like, no matter what you do, green just does not come out right. So,
Oh, it was considered for the kids who were hiding in the closet, I guess.
Well, they just got to the point where they all knew what I meant to say, and I think Green just got over it. They're just like, whatever, we're the closet team.
So I want to hear you try now. What is green?
Oh, what is green? Yellow's a waya. What is green?
Is it tonal?
It is. It's a partially tonal language, which is why I get it wrong and I can't even hear it. I think Apia is blue. Wow, I can't remember green. It's in my notes, but if I look that up, then I'll have to stop looking at you guys on the phone. And anyway. But, I mean, it's not that hard to get down, like, hello, how are you? What's your name? How old are you? And by then you found a translator, and you, like, pull the translator over, and you're like, help! But we do have some amazing translators there. It's primarily students from a Bible school in Yangon who work as our translators, and they are excellent. We will probably even get some of the same ones that I worked with last year. I actually went early last year, and I taught at the Bible school for a week, and I trained them in how to do children's ministry. And then they traveled with us and learned how to do children's ministry by working alongside us. And they have continued doing children's ministry since then, which is
That's
so
awesome.
cool. Like, they took it and they ran with it. So it will probably be some of the ones that I trained last year, and then there may be some new ones that I'll be training again this year as well. So they become part of our team, and we teach them to do children's ministry. In fact, the goal is that by the time we leave, they can do it without us. Mm-hmm. And so we try to do it where, like, let's say you're the story team. And so the first 2 times you tell a story and they're translating it. And then the third time you're like, okay, it's your turn. You tell the story now. And you work them into it, taking turns back and forth and, you know, getting them to tell the stories, or, you know, you lead the game a couple times and then you're like, okay, now it's your turn. You lead the game and I'll help you. And it's really awesome to see them catch a vision for children's ministry and run with that, because they stay there. And so there's hundreds more kids that have heard the stories and played the games and stuff like that we taught them since we left, because they've continued on doing it.
That's so cool.
That was really cool.
And somewhere my dragon hat is traveling the mountains of Myanmar, because they really liked my story, the story that we had about a dragon. And they're like, that's just one problem. They're like, we've been trying to make a dragon hat and none of them look as good as yours. And I was like, I can get a new dragon hat. You can have mine. So it's probably still somewhere out there in the hills of Myanmar.
That's hilarious. That was a really good skit. That was a really good skit.
It is fun. It has a fire-breathing dragon in it.
Like a legit fire-breathing, like actual fire-breathing dragon.
The only thing was, the guys one time sort of messed it up when I was telling the story. I was the dragon in the story, okay? So I'm like breathing fire, you know, it's supposed to be really scary and all that. And all the guys in the skit had stuffed marshmallows in their pockets, and they whipped them out and stuck them on toothpicks, and they all held out marshmallows.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
Man, you just totally destroyed my scary dragon.
Well, it kind of all. There was recompense when their marshmallows ended up tasting like a combination of burnt and hairspray. But
the dragon gets its revenge eventually when you're all eating hair-sprayed marshmallows. is. But if you want to go to a culture that's about as far from the U.S. as you possibly can and experience something that's completely different, that is Myanmar. Once you get outside of the city, it feels like time stood still for the last several centuries. I mean, like, all those iconic images that you think of people, like, you know, wearing those pointed hats and, you know, doing rice patties by hand and all of that, they're still doing that. That's still the way, that's just life. One of my favorite things I've done is just rented a bike and gone for a bike ride through the rice paddies. It's just fun to watch people living life like they have for centuries. They paddle boats with their feet. Try that one. I did. I almost fell in. I was like, teach me how to paddle it like you do. Like, they hold the paddle. It's like this big, huge paddle. They tuck it under their shoulder, and they paddle with one foot. And it's this really complicated thing. And so I was like, teach me how to do it. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we'll teach you how to do it. And so they're like, try it standing here on the dock. And I tried that, and they're like, actually, you're pretty good at this. You can do this. Okay, you can stand in the boat and do it now. Well, they stand on the back of the boat, and they paddle with one foot. And it was a good thing that they kept holding my hand, or I would have fallen in. I kept doing all this wobble thing, and they're like, yeah, you're doing good. I'm like, yeah, right, I'm going to fall.
That's the thing about Global Encounters trips, guys. You will have a higher ratio of just like life to life memories than you've had, I think, it's safe to say, any other point of your life, including Apex. You are going to be making memories almost every second of every day.
Or falling off a boat. And, yeah. Oh.
It's a memory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I created some memories for the people who lived there, too.
You were not even creating memories for yourself, but for everybody watching.
Some things cannot be unseen.
Oh, dear. So Ecuador, the schedule will be very similar to what we did this year, where we'll spend part of our time in Quito, and then we'll probably spend part of it in a mountain village outside of Quito. We'll be working again in schools as well as churches, and I definitely have asked to have working with teenagers on the schedule again, since that was really fun this last year. And I know at first everybody was like, that's the freakiest thing ever. We have to teach teenagers. We just got over like teaching kindergartners and being okay with it. And now we didn't find out that we were doing high schoolers until the day before. So it was a little overwhelming. I think people were just like, this is scary. But it turned out being our favorite day of the whole trip. So we'll go a little bit more prepared, and then I'll know that we're doing high schoolers ahead of time. But it was really cool because we were able to talk with them at a much deeper level. And, I mean, we talked with them about life purpose, and who better to do that than a bunch of College Plus students?
That's awesome.
It's a lot of teaching very high energy kids. Okay, where South Asian kids are very quiet and respectful and all that. South American kids are just like energy bouncing off the walls. It's just like, bah! And I love that. I think I fit in well there. They like me there. If you speak Spanish, it is a real plus. It's really helpful for being able to just get down on the kids' level and talk with them. But if you don't, we'll have translators there too. I find it helps. It's easier to learn Spanish, and it really helps if you at least learn some basics, like, hi, how are you? What's your favorite color? After you've asked 47 kids, what's your favorite color? For one thing, you'll know the phrase, what's your favorite color? And you also probably will have learned most of your colors, too. And then you can start in on what's your favorite school subject, and then you can start in on what's your favorite ice cream flavor, and it's a great way to learn vocabulary. The kids there are super friendly. They're easy to make friends with, and they're just, I mean, if you love them, they are so willing to really take to heart what you say. And the kids there, they're hungry for being loved. They're very open to it, but they're hungry for it. So when you show up and you love them, You're their best friend, you're their hero, and they want to hear what you have to say, which means if you're coming to share Jesus with them, you have such an easy platform for sharing the gospel with them. I've seen a lot of kids get saved in Ecuador in the last couple of years. Like I said, it's my other favorite place in the whole world to go on a mission trip. Now, accommodations there are pretty nice. The first week we'll stay in a bed and breakfast in Quito. It's run by a Christian family. They specifically host mission teams. So it's like staying in a ginormous house. And most of the time the hot water works. And most of the time the Wi-Fi works as long as like 14 people don't all decide to get on FaceTime at the same time. I think Eddie even did an Empower call from Quito, didn't you, Eddie?
I've done coaching and Empower calls from Quito, yeah. Quito, if I had to move somewhere outside the U.S. and like live there, and it wasn't in Europe and it wasn't in America, it would be Quito, Ecuador. Quito, Ecuador is an amazing place. And if I could live in one place in Quito, Ecuador, it would be that bed and breakfast. I would just like be their adopted son and rent a room from that place. Is awesome.
Yeah, it is really nice. And the people there know Global Encounters teams really well. Like they've had so many of the Global Encounters teams come through, and they're really nice to us.
The people are wonderful. The food's wonderful. The view's amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful country.
Yeah. Once we get outside of Quito, we'll probably stay in a small hotel, which it's comfortable, it's clean. Some of them, depending on where we stay, sometimes they have more or less hot water. And more or less Wi-Fi. Usually less.
I'll never forget the process of trying to get the disc tests done. That was an experience.
So
I know there's Wi-Fi here. I know it's here. I just can't get it to work.
There's 4 other people are trying to get it to work. Yeah, we had the whole team do the disc test, which it's a personality test. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, and then we did like all these really fun exercises. Like we divided up into the different personality types. It was like, so if you were in an argument with this personality type over here, how would you want them to respond to you? It's great when you're trying to learn how to get along with each other as a team.
Hey Liz, while we're on this topic, do you still have that list of questions?
Yeah, I do.
Could you email that to me?
Yeah.
Me too, please.
Awesome.
Did you guys
I want
know?
to do it with my youth group.
Okay. Did you guys know I was making up all those questions as we went?
No. So DI of you.
Oh, but I wrote them down afterwards because I was like, that worked really well. That was fun. I want to remember those questions.
Or ID, whatever.
Yeah. I think I'd written down 3 questions ahead of time, and then I just made up all the others as we were going.
Good job.
Nice.
You could have never told us, and you would have had us extremely fooled. So there you go.
Well, I kept looking down at my phone like I was reading the questions. I was actually just like racking my brain trying to come up with the next thing to ask.
Oh my goodness.
That's a great public speaking tip. Just bring an empty 3x5 card with you, and so when you get stumped, you can stare at the 3x5 card like you're reading it, and it's perfect. I used very minimal notes for that speech. Very minimal notes.
I just keep looking at the same 3x5 card all the time.
Or you can bring 2 and repeatedly shuffle them like you're looking for the right one.
Oh. Yeah. We do work at really high altitudes in Quito. Quito itself, well, Quito and outside of Quito. Quito itself is between 9,000 and 10,000 feet above sea level, depending on where you are in the city. And then we actually did the highest children's program I've pulled off yet with the team, because we were at, what was it, 11,800 feet above sea level for that last kids program.
Yeah.
The
We
singing
should be
was
in the
short.
Guinness Book of World Records for that.
Highest kids camp ever. No oxygen.
And the poor game team doing the boot camp lesson up there. Oh.
Yeah, try doing jumping jacks and push-ups at 11,000 feet plus above sea level.
For 20 minutes. on 20-minute rotations, like just boom, over and over and over and over again.
And then we played volleyball with a bunch of the kids after we were done one day.
And singing and push-ups and inflating a raft.
Yeah, there's a raft that was part of one of the stories. Trying to blow it up. Yeah.
It was a kiddie pool, not a raft.
That's true. You're right. It was. It was Noah's
Raft,
boat.
kiddie pool, ark, same difference.
Oh, as you can tell, we have a lot of fun. Like, our kids program is a blast. We have such a good time. The way we set up is we have 5 different teams. So we have 2 game teams, 2 craft teams, and a story team. And that makes up the 5 teams. And the kids rotate around between the groups. So that way they're only in a group for about 20 minutes, 30 at the most, depending on how long our kids program is going on. And then they move to the next group. And so you learn your lesson really well because you're teaching the same lesson usually 5 times a day. The kids rarely have time to act up and be a problem because they only have 20 minutes with you and then they move on to the next thing. So it really uses the energy of the kids well and keeps them moving, but at the same time gives them really good quality teaching because you can focus on teaching rather than focus on just doing crowd control. Because there's not much boredom factor when you're changing location, activity, and teacher every 20 minutes.
Nice.
So, and our skits are always fun. That's where we have things like Fire Breathing Dragon and Noah in the kiddie pool and
Roasted marshmallows.
yeah. Yeah, our stories are fun. And everybody gets to be in them. We have everybody act in them at some point if they want to, which is always enjoyable.
Sweet.
We have about probably 5 more minutes till I'm going to cut the recording off so it's not too long.
Okay. Any questions about equity?
Yeah.
So how much of, you've mentioned all kinds of different, props and stuff. How much of the lesson prep is done by Global Encounters and how much is done by the actual team members?
That's a very good question. We have a curriculum that we bring for you, so you don't have to create any of the lessons. That's all handed to you. And we bring all of the supplies. So we oftentimes tell people it's really helpful if you bring your own pair of scissors. But beyond that, we bring everything. So, everything down to, the paper and the tape and the markers and the props and everything. So your prep time each day is pretty short. The craft team usually has a little bit of work to get craft stuff ready, but the game teams usually have a really short amount of prep, and so they'll hop in and help cut stuff out or whatever if there's a need for that. The story team, it's mainly just learning, looking over their story and figuring out how they want to tell it, but we even give them instructions like, here's how you tell the story. So it's mainly just going over it, making sure, okay, so you're going to tell this part of it, and then you're going to do this, and you're responsible for getting the supplies out, and just assigning the jobs to people and looking over the notes, but you don't have to create the curriculum yourself.
Good deal.
We don't spend a whole lot of time every day doing prep. We spend way more time out there actually with the kids.
Good.
And the training time is usually, we do some training ahead of time before you get there. So it's a 4-part training that you do online before you go down there. Each one probably will take you maybe 30, 45 minutes at the most. And that includes all your forms that you fill out, your medical release form, your just all of the different paperwork things that you need to do. And then each training segment has a short video that you watch. So it's things like how to share the gospel with kids, how to interact with a foreign culture, how to deal with culture shock. And so it's short little training videos, how to have team unity and not destroy it. And then we do some training once we actually get there, of kind of sitting everybody down and saying, this is how the kids program is going to work, and then assigning parts, here's what you're going to do, here's what you're going to do, and then, okay, guys, now prep. But we spend most of our time doing ministry, not prepping for it. We try to have as much of that. Yeah. We try to have all of that done as much as possible for you ahead of time.
they're really good debriefs at the end of each day too, guys. So you're learning constantly. Like, so Liz is the coach, Russ is the coach, Rob's the coach. The leaders of the team are coaching you through how the day went, what went well, what didn't, and then fixing it with you. So there's definite a really cool debrief system built into it too.
We might even say, tell me more about that. Any other questions about Ecuador?
You have to tell them about Cui.
So the delicacy in Ecuador is guinea pig. And they call it Cui. And we looked all over the place for Cui while we were down there because the team really wanted to try it. And I mean, we even stopped at different restaurants that said out on their sign that they had Cui, and no place had Cui. So that poor team never got to try Cui. So when Eddie went back with me in the summertime, he bought himself Cui and tried it. How was it, Eddie?
Wildly overrated. Picture basically a bony, greasy, emphasis on greasy, dark meat chicken.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, it's food. There are worse options in the world. I would not order it again. I would eat it if it was served to me, but I would not order it again.
I've
And I
actually
wouldn't
had
rave
better
about
Cui
it.
than that one that you ate. I have had it when it wasn't as greasy.
That's not saying much, Liz. Like you could have waterproofed a wetsuit. That quick.
Yeah, that one was pretty greasy. I mean, it is greasy meat. For the most part, the food in Ecuador is amazing. But I don't know why Cui is their delicacy, because I don't think it's all that good.
It really is good food. Like, I look forward to the food on a daily basis there. It's good food.
Hey, at least they don't eat alpaca there. At least I've never had it in Ecuador. I had it in Peru, and it was gross.
Oh.
You know what wet wool smells like? That's what alpaca tastes like.
Oh my gosh. There's one thing I have a lot of respect for you, Liz. Like, the amount of food that you eat that's new. It's so weird. I don't know if I could do that.
Hey, Ecuador and Myanmar are pretty tame when it comes to the stuff you can eat.
Should do into Ethiopia, we can eat kitfo. Raw hamburger.
Ugh.
Ew. Or you could go to South Africa and eat worms.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, we did that. It was one of those things where it's, you know, that the people there give them to you, and it's the local delicacy, and you can't say no without being really rude. So all I can say is chew and swallow fast.
I think they make up these delicacies for foreigners. Like, they probably sit on the table like they're eating their healthy, regular food. Like, okay, so what's the weirdest thing you guys can think of? Worms. All right, so it's a delicacy now. When the Americans come over, tell them it's a delicacy and feed them one. And then get it on your iPhone. You videotape it. They're still laughing about it.
Since I watched them eat them too.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, I think I'm going to stop the recording. But thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here.
Yeah.
This is really, really awesome.